It really is like, my buddy's dead, you know? Sorry.
A lot of tears only on Fox 4 for the first time. You're hearing more of that emotional conversation between Four in Your Corner Stephanie Tinoco and one of Matthew Marshall's childhood best friends.
Matthew Marshall is facing charges, but he has not been convicted for the grisly murder of his father, Rick Marshall, who detectives found dismembered just days after he was reported missing. This was back in February.
Stephanie traveled to Minnesota to talk with Matthew's best friend to learn more about the case. She also saw face-to-face how he's coping with the loss and dealing with the investigation so far.
You've heard the graphic details from police reports, but we're here in Minnesota to find out who the suspected killer really was.
If he did it, he needs to come clean, and, you know, if he didn't do it, he still needs to get some sort of help.
Words don't come easy for Chris Lepaco, who says his childhood best friend from the small suburbs of Minnesota is gone, replaced by a stranger.
It really is like, my buddy's dead, you know? Sorry.
Matthew Marshall is behind bars for the gruesome murder of his father, who was found dismembered just feet away from the condo he shared with his dad in Cape Coral. A surgical crime, reports show, took a lot of knowledge and skill.
I saw the people talking about, like, it might have been a hate crime, and it's like, he might have said some crazy shit, you know, but he wasn't like that, you know?
Friends say Matt grew up in a wealthy household, went to a private school, and seemed to have a normal life.
I got the impression that everybody did love each other in that family. And I would hang out with Rick and Matt, and we would bust each other's chops all the time.
The headmaster of Matt's school, his college football coaches, friends, and even family wouldn't share pictures of the Matt they grew to know. But it's easy to find the image of the man who is tied to this cruel crime circulating online. For Chris, it's painful to talk about his friend he says is being portrayed as a monster.
He was a really good person.
Taking a deep breath, he tells me he thinks he lost his best friend to alcoholism and schizophrenia.
I definitely think he's got some mental issues, and when you mix that with alcohol and whatever else he wants to do to escape reality, then it's no good.
Chris says Matt got sick a few years ago with pancreatitis. Doctors ordered him to stop drinking, so he asked Chris for help.
I just said, you know, whatever you need from me, I'm here for you. And I could hear in his voice that he was really gonna have a hard time with that.
But Matt still struggled with alcohol, and things would soon get worse. Records show this is the last place Matthew Marshall lived in 2007 before he was evicted. Around the same time, that's when friends say they started noticing a change in his personality.
Matt started acting weird. He was using coded language that a lot of us didn't understand.
The same year, police reports show Matt showed up at a different friend's store, enraged and confrontational. The friend telling officers Matt choked him to the point he couldn't breathe and gouged at his eyes with his fingers.
I know another time he showed up at someone's house and just stood there and stared at him and then left. So he's done things to intimidate people in our group. I basically informed his family of the things that he was saying, and I didn't hear from Matt after that. So shortly after that, I think Matt went into the hospital.
Records show Matt has been committed and even Baker acted in the past. Months before his father's murder, Chris started hearing from Matt again.
He was sending me messages on Facebook about different secret societies and stuff like that.
The troubling messages escalated.
He wanted me to kill terrorists with him. He never mentioned anything about his dad. I just know that he wanted to kill terrorists. And I thought he was joking. I thought he was just drunk and on social media and saying things that he would regret the next morning.
Matt's social media accounts list disturbing interests, threats to politicians, ISIS, and his friends.
He was making really graphic threats. I didn't necessarily take them seriously. I just knew that, okay, Matt's having problems again.
Marshall, Matthew?
But then he heard of Matt's arrest.
Everything came together. It was like an aha moment. My mom just said that someone had been arrested from St. Thomas and their dad had been murdered. And I said, it was Matt, you know? It just, the light bulb went off.
Matt faces charges for second-degree murder, abuse of a dead human body, and tampering with physical evidence.
It feels like Matt, as I know him, doesn't exist anymore. Like Matt died almost. And I mourn his loss. I wish the Matt I knew was still around.
Now, while I was in Minnesota, I also reached out to Matthew Marshall's brother, but couldn't get in contact with him or his mother, who lives in Wisconsin. The family has asked Matthew's friends not to speak with the media until after this all plays out in court, and he's expected back in court on Tuesday for another hearing.
And we hear that from families a lot of times. They don't want to speak. They don't want to do anything to jeopardize the case. But in this case, his childhood best friend was willing to talk to you, and he felt it was important. Why was that?
Honestly, Patrick, he was just, he says this mental illness, he believes he had one, and he believes that's what killed his best friend internally and also would lead to the death of his father. At one point, witnesses even told detectives that they would plead with Rick, his father, to put him into a mental institution, and Rick was just like, no, I love my son too much to do that. So.
Wow. And we know that he told you, his friend also, that he felt like Matthew had died internally in some way. So it's just a tragedy in so many ways for this family. And of course, he wants to get the word out to other families in that situation. Thank you so much, Stephanie.
Thank you.